principles I've learned within my recovery. And I would like to pass it to Emma.
Well, I'm feeling blessed. I'm on the ambassador's course now, and I'm loving it. I'm very busy. I'm going to be joining the Needle Exchange fan soon, and it's all just looking up, just busy. Just come back from Whitby, and I had a traumatic experience where the seagull flew off my ice cream. But apart from that, yeah, I'm grateful. And I'll pass it to, is Charlie in?
I think Charlie's just gone to sit down and check in.
Here.
You're there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I couldn't see who else was in.
I was just getting a charger for my phone. I am checking in, excited because of the last call that I was on. I've had a head cold for the last couple of days. But apart from that, I'm physically and mentally well. And I will tag Katie. Thank you, Emma.
Katie's building the container, I think.
Oh,
so tag Jit. He hasn't been
Jit. I tagged Jit.
Good choice, Charlie.
Hi. Yeah, I'm just tagging in. I'm okay. Sorry, checking in. I'm really well this week, actually. A lot going on, but all manageable and all good, really. Yeah, I'll tag. Let's look, Kai.
Yeah, I'm checking in quite well. I'm in a very echoey room, so it's going to be interesting. But I think overall I'm checking in good. We had the recovery walk in Gateshead last week. That was quite good. It was nice to see, you know, just that sort of visual statement of recovery, and it was at the end of the day as well, and it was fun. So I did enjoy that. And I'll pass it over to Tony.
I'm checking in, feeling quite good. I'm quite motivated to get on with this because it's like I've been looking forward to it all week. So yeah, quite excited what's to come. Hello.
Hi. Hello. Yeah, I'm feeling. How am I feeling? I feel I've got a headache, but I'm feeling like feeling happy-ish. I'm excited about this. What else was it? Was that it? Yeah. I go to Cliff.
Hi, I'm checking in okay. I've been at the Recovery Cafe in Canterbury this morning, so back and looking forward to the meeting to see what it entails.
Okay.
I'll hand over to. I don't know if there's anyone else. I can't see who else is in the room.
Who's T12? Is that you, Clifford?
It could well be. I don't know.
Was it your tablet? Is your tablet still on?
Maybe.
Okay.
So teething problems with it at the moment. Okay, yeah, it's still on. I'll try and turn it off.
No problem. No problem. Okay, so Clifford tags me. All right, so David checking in. Really nice to see you all. It's lovely to see the Raw crew here. And I think it would be good to yeah, maybe just whip around the room and just say which organization you represent. So Katie, if you want to represent Raw, yeah?
Yeah.
And just give a little bit. So Tony, Ella, and Clifford work for Raw. So go for it, Katie.
Yeah, so Raw is a lived experience recovery organisation. We are quite new in Kent, the first one in Kent. And my colleagues here are joining us for the first time today. They've just recently done the 3-day face-to-face intensive course. And yeah, that's us. I'm the coordinator for my sins, and the other guys are the volunteers. Thank you.
Great stuff. Katie. Thank you. Jit, do you want to tell us about your organization?
Yeah, so our organization's probably just over a year, but it's of one person really and another director we don't see much of. It's a lived experience recovery organization. We focus on the Black and Brown community, the underrepresented, like current treatment services, and I guess we're the voice of those who aren't heard, um, and represented. And yeah, it's interesting times really. Lots going on, lots of work to do, but just not enough manpower. But we're guided by Clearo in Nottingham called back in, and yeah, we're part of the Clearo organisation. So yeah, we're in a good place, I think.
What's your
But
organization called, Jit?
sorry, it's called Free in Recovery. So
Right. Okay, Emma.
Yep, with Recovery Connections, based in Middlesbrough, but we're bringing it to Hartlepool. I'm training with them at the moment. Also volunteer with their Start Recovery in Hartlepool. Yep, Connections is more lived experience, and we're bringing that into everything in Hartlepool now. We've got loads going on for Recovery Month. We've had loads going on for Recovery Month. But yeah, we've been very busy, so it's all good.
Great. Kai, you're also Recovery Connections, yeah?
Yeah, so I'm also Recovery Connections just up in Gateshead.
Okay, cool. Charlie?
We run a health and wellbeing group in Hartlepool where we teach people strength training at the beach. We teach meditation, we do walks and talks, we take people into the gyms, and we focus on silencing the mind and silencing the body through health and wellbeing.
Great stuff. So I'm David, and I guess I work for the Ubuntu Academy of Coaching Training Community Interest Corporation or company based in London. That's one of the many hats I wear, but in the UK I wear that hat at the moment. And the reason I do that is to get funding from commissioners. It's better if you're set up as a KIC as opposed to a private entity. Yeah. And we're here today to deliver on the Systemic Wellness Practitioners Certification, which is aimed at people that have completed the 3-day recovery coaching training. And the idea is that the tools that we've learned, the coaching conversation, the continuum, the system, the 4Q model, and creating the container can be practiced here so you can perform better within your roles, within your respective organizations. So Katie said that she's a volunteer coordinator, and I imagine coordinating volunteers is like trying to herd cats.
100%.
Okay, great. So as you know, there's theory, practice, and process. Yeah. So we meet on a Thursday for 2 hours. You need to complete 10 classes to get your certification around that. If you can only attend for 1 hour a week, you need to do 20 hours. Yeah. And if you can only attend for 1 hour a week every 2 weeks, it'll take you 40 weeks. Does that make sense? So each container is going to be different because we set it up the same. We check in, we create a contract like we're going to be here for 2 hours. Yep. And then we find out what the agenda is, and then we go through that process. So last week we had The agenda, I'm going to loosely say, was around the challenges of diversity. Yeah. And Jit really brought his humanity to the container around the challenges that he is faced with. And I really thought it was a great container, and we learned stuff from that. So what's today's agenda? Tony, Ella, and Clifford have just been through a 3-day intensive with me, which I've fucking loved. And doing these trainings is like taking a bottle of salad dressing, shaking it up, and then you got to put it down on the table and let it settle a bit. It can be quite emotional. So, Clifford, if I remember correctly, you said you could only be here for an hour because you've got
That's
a
correct.
previous commitment to go up to London.
That's correct, David. Yeah, I've got to be away by about 3 o'clock. So unfortunately, I won't be able to stay for the full 2 hours.
No problem, mate. It's absolutely fine. If you want to watch the second hour on video, that will count as an hour of classroom time, if that's going to make life easier for you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
You post that on the group chat, yeah?
I'll send you a link to the, yeah.
Okay,
If
fine.
everyone's all right with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The links are unlisted, but I don't think that stops people from sharing it. Okay, so I think the most important thing in containers is safety, psychological safety. The other side of it is, I think sometimes there's so much safety, we never get any fucking work done because we're all worried about, like, oh my God, are we allowed to do this? And blah, 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 and da, 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 and hana. So where should we go today?
Equality.
There we go. Emma, what's that?
I think equality. About everybody
Equality.
being on an equal level. Like we were talking about yesterday about rich and poor and how addiction doesn't discriminate and things like that. And rich and poor, it doesn't matter who you are. And some people kept saying that, like, people in higher roles and jobs have got better equality than people in lower jobs. And it's just, it shouldn't be like that. And I don't know if anybody else has come across that where somebody thinks that they're better than somebody else.
You think. All right. So that's a great agenda. Yeah. So the diversity, yeah, of humanity, and substance use disorder being a kind of a mental condition that can impact anyone, regardless of age, gender, color, race, whatever. Yeah, it like any other illness, anyone can get cancer, anyone can get the flu.
Yeah.
But the assumption is those people.
That didn't go very far, did it?
All right, so let's go with this.
I can definitely, when I was in the madness of cocaine and alcohol, I definitely didn't see me as an addict as someone who was taking heroin or crack. I thought that I definitely looked down at those junkies, because I was never a junkie. Even though I go on benders for 4 or 5 days, I was looking down at them, but never looking up at myself, because firstly, I could afford my shit, and I never got sick. I was never around the streets or anything like that. so I never really looked inwards, and more so because I've got a brother and sister who are heroin addict and a crack addict, but they were well beneath me. They were well beneath me, even even though, like in some of my paranoid days, I'd be like paranoid for 3 days, man, walking about my house with knives. I was still a better class of junkie than them.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for my language, guys, but you know that's what I thought. And it's only just been the last time a couple of years of getting sober that I've actually had the chance to apologise to them because of my thoughts, and because of the way that I looked at him down and treated him. So that was my kind of inequality, man, in my life. I just thought I just thought I would throw that in.
Yeah. Do you get that in the gym,
What
Charlie,
do you think
with
it's
between men and women?
As in,
Do you get like a gender inequality in the gym? Because I know you work in a lot of gyms and fitness, and do you still find that happens there?
oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. Especially if there's someone who is quite big.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of inequality. I mean, there is Emma well, or someone who doesn't really know what they're doing. But yeah, it's something that I've definitely had to look at myself, actually, especially that judgmental side. I didn't really realise how judgmental I was until I started to get sober and look inwards. And I was like, Gordon Bennett, I was really judgmental on everything. But getting sober and being transparent and going through the step 4 and 5 is definitely it made me have a hard look at myself, which I needed, which I really, really needed.
Okay. Who's up for summarize? Go, Tony.
You think like perception plays a part in it? So like how you perceive yourself and how you perceive others. So I had a conversation with somebody not long ago about he thought that I perceived myself lower than what I was. So my social standing was lower than what it actually was. So I'm lived experience. I still think of myself as the guy who's living on the streets, taking drugs, committing crimes, when in reality, I'm now the guy who's giving back, going to work every day, paying tax. But my mind's still back there. Yeah. But then at the same time, my judgment of others seems like it's gone the other way. So now I see people in a better light than I'm maybe doing myself. Thought I'd throw that out there.
Andy thinks I'm posh and I'm not posh. Strange perception there.
So there's an internal perception and an external perception. Yeah. Emma, how are we doing with the conversation? Would you like to summarize what's come up so far?
I will when I stop coughing. I think our lived experience has given us the understanding, even though we're economically working our way up, but we still have that understanding of still being where we were. So I don't know how to explain that. Like,
so start explaining from an I statement. So what I've noticed in myself is.
What I've noticed in myself is that I don't think it matters how high up a corporation you are, or if you're a CEO, if you're this or that, or if you're musclier than one person or not, if you're a heroin addict, alcoholic, you're all in one. I don't want to call it a category, but you're all with the. I don't know how to explain that, but I think you know what I mean. But we're all addicts, basically. And I don't think any position in life can define if you're an addict, you're an addict. And I think equality, it's still there because I still go in places and notice when somebody feels like they're higher than everybody else, but you're all supposed to work as a team. So that's why I was just kind of wondering if anybody else had experienced it or if I was being judgmental and thinking that. I'm not sure. But yeah, I don't know if that's what you meant by explaining it, David. I'm not quite sure how to explain it.
Well, what I noticed was when you used the I statements, you had a lot more it felt more grounded when you spoke from your experience.
Yeah.
And when you spoke about your experience, I could relate to a lot of what you were saying. Yeah. The next thing is we need to think about what it's like for the person that we're interacting with, what they might be thinking when we're trying to build rapport with them. Yeah. So, for example, Charlie, if I was dealing with Charlie and he was a grandiose cocaine addict, yep, and he saw me as a dirty junkie, I need to be aware of what his perception might be and have compassion for his ignorance. Is that fair enough to say, Charlie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alia, welcome.
Hi, sorry, it was my birthday today, so my work team have been doing like a birthday cake and things for me. Sorry, I've joined late.
It still is your birthday today. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Would you like us to sing happy birthday?
No, that's all right.
Okay.
Happy birthday to you.
Oh no, don't do it, guys. I'll get far too self-conscious. Okay. All right. So how are you checking in, Alia?
I'm very good. I'm dead grateful for everyone's like birthday wishes and my gifts. They're amazing. I'm so busy. I've ended up had to take a community member to hospital, and I've got loads I need to do, like patient notes and things like that. But other than that, I'm feeling very lucky and grateful. Thank you.
Okay. And just let everyone know what your role is and what organization you work for.
So I work for Recovery Connections, and I'm a lived experience recovery support specialist.
Great. Okay. And who in the container would like to summarize where we are for Alia? So just so you know, it's okay for somebody to arrive once the container started, because we need to be comfortable with the chaos that our clients could possibly bring, or students, whatever name you want to use. And we need to be able to catch up as well. So who feels like summarizing what today's agenda is?
If you can just excuse me for 2 minutes, I'm just going to go and get some water.
Sure. Okay, so Emma's suddenly gotten thirsty and fucked off. Okay, guys, there's no right or wrong here. We're just kind of learning. And yep, Katie, you want to do it?
Yeah, I can try. Emma brought the subject of equality within addiction and how sometimes perceptions can be quite difficult, between, if you like, a good junkie, a bad junkie, criminal background, that kind of thing, and also the internal perceptions that we have of ourselves, and still having the mindset of when we were in the madness. So maybe the rest of us not catching up with that. Yeah, I think that's broadly where we were.
Thank you.
Does anyone to add to what Katie's summary was? Okay, so that was a yes/no question. So I take it that's a no. All right. Go on, Ella. What did you just say there?
So you just made me laugh, and then I laughed really loud and made a really weird noise.
It's like a posh sort of snort, and then like a little what after what? Oh,
Okay. So what's the topic again, Emma?
Equality.
Equality. Okay, so let's talk about class quickly in the UK. Yeah. So talk to me about I don't know, what's posh? Tony, to you, mate.
I'd go anywhere below the Midlands. If you grew up anywhere below the Midlands, you're a bit posh.
Okay. So that's geographical. So
Yeah,
where,
definitely
where you
geographical.
were born, where you come from. What about accent?
Well spoken.
Well spoken?
I wouldn't say it's posh, it's well spoken.
All right. What's upper class, middle class, working class?
An
You say
absolute load of bollocks. in the broad spectrum. Sorry, go on, Ella.
It was really slow when you said that, so it was like bollocks.
I suppose upper class is you're born into money, middle class, you've made your own money, and lower class, you haven't got no money. That's how I see it.
And what's the difference between lower class and working class?
Money. Earning money. Owning your own house. Going to work.
Okay. So in my personal experience, I'm going to disagree with that because my dad was fucking skint. But yeah, he spoke so frightfully well, and he was a professor, and he went to Harrow, and he would get away with absolute bloody murder because he spoke like this all the time, and he was frightfully clever and intelligent. And people
Sounds like
would
you,
hear
Alan.
his voice, and they would like kind of abdicate all their kind of thinking. Yep. And then he would be judged as eccentric. But
Exactly.
actually, he was quite an unwell alcoholic, which is sad.
I think people with that come from addiction as well, they're very good at kind of masking out kind of where they come from. They're very good at putting on different kind of faces and things like that. So I think, for example, like your dad was good at putting that face on maybe. Yeah, I think we're very good at kind of pretending to be someone we're not because we're not really sure who we are when we're in addiction. If that makes sense.
Welcome, Clarissa.
Hi.
Okay. Who's got the container? Katie, do your thing.
Hi, Clarissa. Would you like to check in with how you're feeling today?
Oh, okay. Harassed.
Good. No. But thank you. And do you want me to catch her up on where we are as well, David? Within that?
That would be great practice, Katie.
Oh. So sorry, I think my connection's a bit unstable. So Clarissa, we're talking about equality within addiction, how we perceive ourselves, perhaps seeing some people as good junkies and bad junkies and that kind of thing. That perception, how we sometimes still may see ourselves as addicts or bad people, even though we've moved forward with our lives. We're still kept in that mindset. And we've just been talking about upper class, middle class, lower class, and the masks people put on and what we perceive as people's different backgrounds.
Thank you. Your hair looks great.
Good. So Clarissa, just for the sake of everyone else, would you like to just tell us the organization you're with and what your role is within that organization?
Yeah, I'm Clarissa and I work for the Ford Trust and I'm team leader for the day program, which is a community rehab.
All right. So where are we going now?
We were talking about Classman, weren't we?
Yeah.
And I don't believe that class has anything to do with money. I remember in the olden days, we used to have 3 different classes, wasn't there? But now I think there's probably 5 or 7 different classes. I think there was bottom, middle, and an upper class. But I think the wealth divide now is so much that we're talking billionaires and trillionaires and stuff like this. I mean, we couldn't even imagine the sorts of money that's out there. And like with Elon Musk and stuff like this. And I've always come personally, I've always come from a working class, my background, but I always strived through money and finances to get what I thought was middle class. And then when I kindly got there, it's like, well, I want more. But in actual fact, it was just the more I got, the more I was exploding inside, the more money that I got, because I had never had money. I'd never ever had money at all. So the more money I got, the more drugs I could buy, the more alcohol I could buy, the more of this like faster lifestyle that I could I could have, the more showy off. But in actual fact, I think class, you're born into whatever class. So if you're upper class, you kind of know how to handle money. If you've got money, that is. But I think, am I being British? Was so entrenched in class, you know. I don't know, man, if it's just a British thing. I'll just
Sorry, Charlie.
No, I'm finished.
I don't think class matters to me on a personal level. I don't think there is a class. I think when I tell people I had horses when I was younger, they're like, oh, you were born with a silver spoon, but I worked hard for my horses. Do you know what I mean? Personally, my mum and dad always taught me to work, but I don't think class to me is to do anything to do with wealth or anything. I mean, I feel grateful for life in general, so that to me is rich. But I don't. That's personal to me. My recovery's a wealth to me, so I mean, I'll pass it over. I don't know how anybody else feels about that.
So Tony spoke about class being somewhere where you're born. If you're born north of a certain area or south of a certain area. What I want to say is, who here used to use Class A drugs? Okay, so that's another thing that's just come into my head in the container.
Yeah.
All right. So what are we learning here this week, Jit? What have you learned so far?
It's hard to define what class is. Is it the same as caste? I don't know.
Tell us about caste.
Yeah, so obviously I'll bring it back to my experience, and I'm Hindu, and there's many castes in that, and you're looked down upon the lower you're obviously like in most cases. And I think it's the Brahmins who are the priests, basically. They're the higher class. I think we fit in back in India, I guess, not here. I don't give a shit here. But yeah, here we're probably just below middle. I think we were shoemakers. So we used to handle leather when we were back at home. So that was deemed not so good because you're touching flesh and stuff like that, blood and all of that. And then there's the lower class and caste. But yeah, I mirror them. I think they're pretty much the same thing. But do they add any relevance to anything? Not really. Emma said, you know, she feels rich in herself because of her recovery, and I iterate that as well. I feel I'm richer than most because I don't see richness in terms of in terms of finance. I see it in terms of your mindset and your behaviors. I think, or maybe I'm waffling on a bit, but
So,
you know,
so just if I got it right, in the Hindu caste system,
yeah,
which at the top is the priest, and vegetarianism is big in Hindu.
yeah. So they don't actually eat onions or garlic, you know. It's what you, what you eat and stuff. And but those Brahmins in the UK and the Jains in the UK, they're probably the most corrupt out of all of us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's just, I don't know.
I got the movie, and the caste you were born in were shoemakers. That there was a projected stigma because you would work with leather.
Yeah.
Okay, and am I correct that in a caste system, a family's kind of born into their trade?
Yeah, but we have our lives are infinite until we reach the top sort of thing.
Okay. So in your reincarnation, you might become
basically, yeah.
Okay. Where did drug dealers sit in this caste system?
Sorry?
Where did drug dealers sit in the caste system?
They'd like to they'd like to think they're high up, but they're probably below the low. I don't know. They're all the crooks, aren't they? The politicians and the priests. Sorry, that's just my opinion. I'm being flippant, I guess. But yeah, it's still quite prominent back home, and in certain quarters here in the UK it is as well. Though they say it's not relevant, but it still happens in practice. From what I see, and yeah, like Emma said, it's how you feel, and I just dismiss all of that, to be honest. But in terms of class, I don't know. I don't know. I've not really thought about it because I don't really see it as an important thing.
All right. So one of the struggles I see within the UK is access to services. Yeah, that's a voice that always comes up. They won't understand me. They won't get me. They don't know. Oh, I'm not going to hang out with those crackheads. I do cocaine. I don't have that problem. I drink Chivas Regal whiskey. There's nothing wrong with me. Yeah, and just kind of that. My doctor gave me my drugs. You know, I've been prescribed these things. It's so if we're trying to kind of build rapport with people, personally, I think it's important to understand how this stuff might impact us if we're not aware of it. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. How does this class and rank and that sort of stuff play out in your organizations? Go on, Ella. Tony's championing you. He's saying, go on, get in there.
I was going to say, I don't know, when it comes down to people's kind of
how they perceive themselves, like their self-esteem and stuff in regards to their class or whatever, if they think they're too poor to get treatment, or they're rich and they're like, oh, like, well, they're not, they're kind of perceived to be rich, but then they don't actually have any money and they need to go into treatment. But then people would be like, why are you going into community treatment? Why aren't you going to private rehab, etc.? There could be a stigma around that from other people. They could kind of lack kind of that kind of to go and get it because of those reasons. Does that make sense? I feel like I've muddled up what I was trying to say.
That makes a lot of sense. And what about in organizations where somebody's got kind of low self-esteem and they get promoted to be a manager, and then that role kind of gets used in a way that's not great? That makes sense?
Yeah, I think so. So like you say, someone that is, so I say I go up top.
So when I was working in banking, yep, one day I'm working with my mate, yep. The next day he goes and gets promoted, and he becomes a manager, and then all of a sudden he has a personality change because somehow he's the fucking governor now. I was like, what the fuck happened to you?
I think we've got that actually, yeah, because Ella and me are friends before she come and worked for me. And also for me, I went from a role of being a facilitator into management role, and I think it depends on the person, you know. I am able to draw that line, but I don't know why. I can't sit here and explain why, but I can deficienate. Is that the right word? I do like to make a word up now and again. The difference between friends and being a manager. Differentiate. There you go. I hope I do anyway, Ella. But I think, you know, what Ella said was really interesting, is that it's when people, it's not just the clients that perceive our program as being the lesser program because it's a community free charity. It's also the staff as well.
Yeah, we do have that a lot.
Say more about that, Clarissa.
So we run the same program. So Forward Trust have got three or two rehabs in residential. They run exactly the same program as us, but the people stay in them units, and for us, they go home at the end of the day. But the actual ones that they still have to pay for, those ones, they're a private one as well. So they cost however much, £800 a week or whatever. But because we're free, it's looked at being less than. But I mean, I can sit here and say that probably we do a better job delivering the program, which is exactly the same. But it's just looked at because it's in the community and it's free and it's a charity free and there's no one paying for it. It's looked as less than.
So interesting, this stuff.
The argument could be, I mean, the more that you're paying for, if you're paying, you know, shitloads of money for rehab, you're getting sort of like, you know, clinicians that are at the top of their game, so you're getting the best treatment as such. You know, that's maybe one way of that they look at it. You know, and if you're going in government or, you know, charity funded rehab, the people that you're getting to teach you are only sort of basic NHS staff or basic trained staff. They're not professors and psychologists and psychiatrists that are at the top of their game if you're paying, you know, $5,000 a week in, you know, one of the top rehabs in the country. I mean, that's one way that people could look at it, I suppose. But to me, rehab's rehab.
Yeah, my comparison, Cliff, is with the ones that are in Ford Trust. And actually, we don't have they don't have detox in those places. And if they do, the clinicians come in from the outside and we pay them.
Comes back to perception again, doesn't it? I mean, it's how you perceive.
Yeah.
Like, one person could get well with us, but not with them, and vice versa. It's all comes down to the client. Like, my personal thing was, I wouldn't have been able to walk into any of them rehabs. You had to take it away from me and lock me away for me to make that decision. So, who says, like, how can you can only judge on results, can't you? That's the thing. Comes back to results. And we have got high
Let's
results.
hear from Kai. Kai, you've been very quiet. No hiding under the radar here,
hello?
Kai.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, lovely.
So I think with the sort of wider discussion of sort of class and things like that, I think it plays a fucking massive role in recovery in terms of the sort of social capital you have, and also money in itself is just recovery capital, in my opinion. It makes it much easier to get better, and it makes the impact, I think, of addiction lesser. So like in my case, I'm from a fairly like well-off family. My dad's a lawyer. So I didn't have any of the sort of issues with homelessness, with, you know, having to, for example, steal, things like that I've heard a lot of from like people I work with. So I think that class needs to be taken into account, and sort of the role it plays. Because, for example, I've been stopped by the police, but because I'm dressed nicely, because I talk quite well, they just go like, mate, yeah, just we'll take that, don't do it again, rather than actually arresting me or something like that, if that makes sense. There's those two sides of it. There's the material side, and the more, you know, capital, money, things like that you have, the easier I think it is to recover, and the less impactful the addiction potentially is. And then on the other side, I think there's that element of social capital of, for example, I'm treated in a better way because of how I look, because of how I talk and things like that. And I think when we're sort of dealing with people, we have to take those things into account, not necessarily to strive for equality, but to strive for equity. And then that's something I've been looking at today. So I've recently got a fella on my caseload who doesn't speak English. So if I treated him equally as I treat everyone else, that's not going to work for him, because he needs a little bit extra. He needs an interpreter. He needs, you know, these sort of things, to where the focus isn't necessarily on equality anymore, but it's on equity now, of what do I need for this guy to give him, you know, the sort of the best level of service, if that makes sense.
Very insightful there, Kai. Anyone want to build on that?
Yeah, I think those are really, really good and valid points. However, I think there's a bit of a flip side. If people have money and they have, you know, the wherewithal, then I think there's a perception that if they throw money at the problem, as in pay for a very expensive private rehab, they're going to be fixed, and they don't actually have to do any work on themselves. I think when you come from a background where you've got to fight to get recovery treatment, you're much more passionate about it and more likely to engage in the services. So it's a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Go, Emma.
Yeah, it is a double-edged sword because I agree with that. Like, do they appreciate it any less or any more, or they have the ability to just access some resources on a whim? Like we don't. Like majority of people don't have that sort of money, and I don't think, like the other lady said, I can't remember her name, but about the rehabs, one's free, one's not. And she said the service is no different. I don't think recovery. I think recovery is just a recovery, isn't it? It's like it's getting well. I don't think it matters how much money you've got. I don't know.
I think there's a point as well where kind of if we're looking at classes, you're kind of like in the middle where if class is money, whatever class is. So for example, I'm going from my own experience. I'm in the middle where I don't have much money, but I don't not have any money. Does that make sense? So my parents paid for me to go to rehab. I couldn't pay for myself, but my parents paid for me to go rehab. They're not like rich, but it was the only option that I could do to get help. So they would put in whatever they could to help me. But then for me personally, rehab, it worked for a while, but then I relapsed. And then I went on our community rehab program, what I work on. And that worked for me better than it did a proper rehab. But when I was in like residential rehab, there was always that there was like a kind of class thing going on there as well. And then you got like people looking down on you if you use certain drugs or whatever. So there's like all that stuff going on in that setting as well. But then I think you get that in a community setting as well, but maybe not as much. There's like stigma wherever you go is basically what I'm trying to say. And like money and stuff is always kind of an issue for some people it's not. But yeah, I don't really know what I'm trying to say.
Well, class brings opportunity, doesn't it? So if you have money, you have the opportunity to walk into a treatment centre, where if you don't have money, you've got to wait to get a treatment centre. So somebody who doesn't have money will appreciate the treatment more than somebody who does have the money, because if they fail in one rehab, they just go and walk into the next rehab and the next rehab and the next. So somebody of a lower class or a lower standing or with less don't have the options, do they? They don't. Like some people are waiting 6 months to get a rehab, to get funding for a rehab.
I think for me, knowing that my parents wouldn't be able to afford to pay whatever they paid again, that was the point where I was like, I need to get sober because I'm not going backwards. I've got to go forwards. So I think not having money, like not having like a limitless amount of money, does help in that situation. For me personally.
So it changes all the time. Yeah. That's. So we'll get back to this. We're going to have a break now. Yeah. So Clarissa, before you go, just to let you know that it's absolutely fine that you're jumping off for half now and you're going to go back on. Because you weren't here at the beginning, just to let you know, from a safety point of view, this meeting is recorded.
Yeah.
So if at any time you're thinking, oh no, this isn't working anymore, just anyone says, and I will delete the recording, because I'll have witnesses that we captured the recording and we did it.
Yeah.
The recording's not for everyone. It's an unlisted recording that we're using for learning purposes. Yeah. So just so you know that.
Thank you.
For you to get the qualification, you need to complete 20 hours in systemic wellness practitioner, and container is focused on using the coaching skills so you can be better within your role within your organization. So whether you're paid by the organization, you're a volunteer, you're doing this privately, it's still the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, Clifford, are you going to be checking out permanently today?
I am. Yeah, I am going to be checking out now, actually. Yeah.
So, would you like to check out and just tell us what you're taking away with you this week?
Yeah. Appreciate your time today. Yeah, it's just emphasised to me that there is a lot of inequality within addiction. No matter how you think or how you perceive it, and there always will be, unfortunately. The same as society.
So hopefully the learning is there is an inequality, but there's multiple pathways to recovery, and if we can adjust to what that person's diverse needs are.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I'm sure there are smokers here. So let's take a 7-minute break. So you can have nicotine and a pee if you need be, or a coffee. And let's be back by 5 past. Does that work for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. Are we here the same time again next week? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's lovely to see you here, Clifford. And thank you for filling out the feedback form and just showing up. I hope this was beneficial for you. See you later.
Thank you, David.
Hi.
Jit and Emma, you beat me back.
I just made the tea, that's it.
Hey,
Just had tea, just making tea, that's all it was. I'm all right.
congratulations on your 10 years. Jit.
Ah, yeah, thank you very much. It was just another day really, but I did appreciate it by the end of it, and yeah, just recognized it for what it was.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. So
A
yeah,
massive achievement.
yeah, it is. It is, yeah. I'm not gonna, yeah. I see it in a different way. My life's totally changed now. My default is who I am now, not the default of that time. So yeah, it's great. I love it. Life's a good thing.
You've got one of those fancy coffee machine, Charlie.
No, just a fancy cup.
Oh,
Normal coffee in a fancy cup. It's all about perception.
all right. So who built the container? Was it you, Katie? Okay. Who?
It was.
Yep. Who else wants to go? Go on, Jit. There you go. Thanks for offering.
Who, me? Did you say
Yeah.
my name? Sorry, what was the question again?
Sure. Yeah. So the question was, who wants to build the container now? Katie did it up and kind of held the space for the first hour. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I don't mind. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, hi guys. I'm just checking in. I'm yeah, feeling intrigued by the first half of this session. And yeah, let's see how this half goes. And I'll tag in who can I see? Emma. Emma can see.
Yeah, I'm checking in. I don't know, I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling good. Yeah, that's it. I'm glad I'm back after 2 weeks off. But yeah, I'll tag Charlie.
Thank you, Emma. I'm still feeling coldy and head cold and sore and achy, and I've got man flu, which is the worst sort that my women would never understand. But I'm feeling really good, thanks. And I tag Aya.
I love how you say my name. It's hilarious.
Is it?
It's Aaliyah.
Oh,
It's okay.
Aaliyah.
I'm feeling very good, thank you. I'm looking forward to finishing work and doing my recovery meeting because I'm 97 days today, but I missed my meeting last week. So I pick up my 90 days chip today. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll give it to Katie.
Thank you. Congratulations on your 90 days. I'm feeling a little bit frustrated because the weather is affecting my internet a little bit. It's very rainy here. And also note to self, don't check emails and messages on a break because you then get frustrated. But I really enjoyed the first section of this today, and it's just so interesting because they are things that we probably won't ever change completely, but we can address and work towards these things as best we can in our environment. And I will pass it to Kai.
Yeah, I'm checking in good, just basically the same as right at the start. I'm enjoying it. So, all good, 2 thumbs. And I'll tag Tony and Ella in whatever order they choose.
I'm feeling okay. A little bit hard done by because Ella didn't share her sweets on break, but Yeah, looking forward to the second half.
It's because someone had been eating my sweets while I've been away from my desk. And I only had 2 left. I feel tired, but I'm always tired.
Who's picking?
Oh, I thought we were done.
Dave.
Dave.
Oh, thanks. I'm glad you know my wound is I hate being left behind and left out. So thanks for catching me there, because my family were very rich and posh. And when I was with them, they were very poor and posh. And the projection onto me has left me very wounded and not feeling a part of. So thank you for catching me there, Ella. No, I check in playful. All right, so Jit, find out what we're going to talk about now.
If we continue slightly on what we started in the first bit, and I'll just talk about something I did yesterday, and it follows on from this morning bit. Sorry, this first hour bit. I went to Gartree prison yesterday to do some work with the prisoners, and it was frightening. It's the first time I've ever been into prison. So as soon as they shut the first gate, I was bricking it. And you know, you go through 10 doors before you even get into the room we were supposed to be in. So they locked the doors behind you and stuff. And I was like, oh, am I going to get out? And then, you know, we did what we did, and then we spoke. And we did a Q&A and stuff on the work we were doing. And I so affiliated with those guys. They were just normal. I asked one of the girls what they're in for, one of the guards, and she goes, "They're all lifers. And a lot of them here in this room right now, there's 30 of them, and they're all murderers." And I was like, oh yeah, great, thanks. This is really what I need. But we spoke, and at the end of the thing, the guards were like, they've never spoken this much to anyone or about anything. And we were talking about recovery. So I went in with a preconception of they're below me. Do you get what I'm saying? And that's what we spoke about before. But you know what? I left a bit of me and I took a bit of them when I left that place, because I so connected with them. And the lads were coming up, giving me a hug afterwards, and they were like, "Thank you so much for listening to us." And because we can't affiliate with the recovery workers here, so, and obviously I took my lived experience in there. And for me, a lot of inequality is preconception and ideas. I don't know if it's class or inequality, so I don't know what we're going to talk about. Yeah, something around that, you know, where you've actually faced it. Have you lot faced it personally? You know,
Stigmatized.
Yeah, they were stigmatized, and they mentioned that as well, how they felt quite stigmatized, not only because of the drugs and the drink, but also because they've been in prison as well. And if some of them do potentially get out, because they'll still be on any misdemeanors and they're straight back in, sort of thing. Yeah, yeah, something around that. Stigma.
I think stigma is huge. We as alcoholics get stigmatized, and we also stigmatized because, like, I can't remember who said it, but like, I'm not sitting in there because it's full of alkies and crackheads or whatever. That's us stigmatizing other addicts. Yet we're stigmatized as well. It's a bizarre situation.
Okay. So let's keep the container on using the tools to develop our roles within our organization. So what I heard Jit do, yeah, as part of his work, was to go and take his story into an institution that have people that have been impacted by a culture of addiction. No? And he noticed how when he walked in there, he was bricking it. was the term he used. As soon as the first gate closed, I was bricking it. Yeah. I think that means shitting himself. Yeah. And then he was aware of that. So how his own internal fear came up, and then he had to deliver on what his role is, what his job was. Is that correct, Jit? Yeah. And in doing that and bringing your authentic self and your lived experience, it impacted the container of lifers in a way that the prison guard said, fuck no, we've never heard this before. And I think that's a very good thing to happen, because a lot of people can go into prison and still carry on using. It's not a culture of recovery, it's a culture of addiction still, where you're just kind of containing people. And if we can kind of put a drop of hope or something inside that environment, yeah, we might have less offending or whatever it is when people come out of prison. Tony, you want to come in here? I just see you just unmuted.
That's what our organization's about. We're trying to break down that stigma. I did something similar in Wormwood Scrubs on Monday. So we did a recovery event there. 4 different wings came out. We did 4 different shares. I was one of the shares. And after that share, it wasn't just inmates that were coming up to talk to me. It was officers. The governor came up, asked if I could then go back and do other days. So he got to see the power of change, basically. So I was one of those inmates. Now I'm back in the prison, working for a recovery organization, sharing my story. And then we do events like the football. I do an event with the football where we don't. Sorry, Ala does event. It's my partner with the football. So it's not just open to people in addiction. It's people who are affected by addiction. So family members, friends, and if we're honest, there's nobody. Everybody's affected by addiction. There's nobody exempt from that.
Systemic condition.
Yeah, that the ripple effect of one addict is. Do you know what I mean? It spreads far and wide, doesn't it? Whether that's family, friends, victims, society in general. Like addiction affects everybody, doesn't it? So we've got to get better understanding about addiction rather than just addicts or whatever, scum of the earth. They need locking up and putting away. They need help, don't they? They need help, and wider society needs better education to understand what's going on.
Yeah, I think as well, kind of like when you think about hospitals and like the people, like most incidents in hospitals are caused by alcohol. I'm generalizing here, but most of the time it's caused by alcohol or like A&E incidents and things like that. And then when you think about people that go to prison, that are sent to prison, sometimes it's people that have kind of been using drugs themselves, or they've gone to steal things and then they've been arrested for that. And loads of crimes like that are caused by the ripple effect of addiction, and the health effects are ripple effects of people from addiction as well. So that's kind of why it's so important to get to the core of the problem. Don't know what I'm doing this with my hand.
But it's great because you're right.
Thank you.
So how about we try and get to the core of the solution?
Yes. How do we get there?
That's a great open question.
I think one of the sort of most important things that we do in my role and like regarding stigma is visible recovery of, for example, yeah, I used to be a cocaine addict, but I'm here now, I'm not. You know, people can get in that message of sort of visibly, you know, that people can change, they can get better, if that makes sense, to make it look more, you know, in the view that I think it should be looked at as just an illness. You know, you don't have the stigma around people with cancer. You don't have a stigma around, you know, you have stigma around some diseases like AIDS, for example, used to have massive stigmas. That stigma was broken down, and then AIDS has become less prevalent, more manageable. And I think the same sort of thing needs to happen like with addiction, of that there needs to be that focus on like a disease model, if that makes sense, and of visible recovery to sort of accompany that.
I think it's because the stigma with addiction is the fact that it's self-inflicted. That's a lot of people's perception. It's self-inflicted. Like, you can't help cancer, you can't help certain things, but that's what I've heard of people when they don't understand this, because they believe it's self-inflicted to begin with. We choose to put a drink in our mouths and stuff like that, but later on it becomes a disease, and that's what I had a conversation with somebody about yesterday. But I think that's why people stigmatise it, is because they believe it's a choice.
Okay, so let's just go back to Jet, who's holding the container. Yeah, we're here to learn about systemic wellness and building containers within our organization. And Clarissa's just joined us back. So check her in, Jet, and catch her up.
Hi, Clarissa. Just want to check in. We're talking about my visit to the prison yesterday and how people perceive and prisoners around the stigmatization of them, and we're looking at solutions now, how to break that down. So if you want to check in.
Yeah, Clarissa.
Well done,
I was in Wormwood Scrubs on Monday. It's quite interesting that you're talking about that, because there was a real diverse cohort. Is that the right word?
Population.
Yeah. So I get what you're saying.
So how are you checking in?
Oh, I'm good, thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Oh, brilliant.
I'm
Thank you.
joyous.
Joyous.
Back to
Can
you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something. I don't know if you ever to experience this, but we were talking about addiction yesterday, and there was not a single person from the Muslim community. Yet, around Eid, there's an increase in the amount of alcohol they distill in the prison. And obviously it's haram to drink in the Muslim community, but they're one of the biggest drinkers there in the actual prison. And I was just wondering if you ever to maybe saw that, because they never came, because one, they weren't allowed to, I think, because of the fear of what would have happened if they put their hand up and says, yeah, we drink in prison, sort of thing.
The prison we were at was a different type of prison from what you were at. So we did see a variation in the prison. There's 4 different wings, and it was different. So you got people on remand, people who are awaiting sentence, people who are sentenced awaiting transport. So the prison you were in was a long-term prison, so they're more settled. So that, like, the alcohol within prison takes time to make. and you have
Yeah.
to be settled to do that kind of thing.
Fair enough.
But on my experience, from my own sort of lived experience, it does go on, and it does center around religious festivals. Yeah.
Mm.
And I sort of noticed, we were actually talking to a guy about this on Monday, and he was talking about lean. So lean is viewed as something that maybe a dealer would drink rather than an end user. So going back to what we were talking about earlier, like the classes in drugs. So the higher class drug user would use the lean, where the lower class user would just drink the alcohol. They wouldn't add the opiates into the alcohol. And yeah, and he didn't realize what lean was. So he ended up on a methadone script, thinking he was the big I am, but ended up queuing up with the methadone users.
Ended up queuing up with the methadone users. There's a stigma statement.
I think he was shocked as well.
Yeah. Well, there's, I mean, I think a lot of people can get into trouble through prescription opiates. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Or prescription drugs in general. Okay. What are we learning about coaching here?
See, I think I made a bit of a mistake here where I took it down the prison route, and everyone here hasn't actually experienced that. So maybe the question I asked was, it should have been around stigma in general rather than the prison route, because I think only 3 of us, 4 of us maybe have experienced that side of it. I don't know.
So I would disagree with you on that
I
one.
don't think so. I think
think
yeah,
learned from it.
think it yeah, and it still applies.
Okay.
You know, you still we
Yeah,
are still
sorry.
trying to treat everyone equally.
Yeah, I haven't been in a prison, so that was helpful.
Yeah, the question is, what have we learned about coaching? And Jit's answer was, I think I got it wrong. And
Not to doubt yourself.
my response is, I disagree. I think it was helpful where he took it. Yes, it was a bit of his agenda. Yeah. But it still felt kind of appropriate for what we've contracted to do here in learning about coaching to help us with our roles in our organizations. And
I think
Tony's prison was slightly different, yeah, to where you went, Jit, yeah, and Clarissa went with Tony, I imagine, yeah. Is Wormwood Scrubs the prison's name, or is that a nickname for the place?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
the name. Okay, cool. All right.
I thought it was a nickname as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Don't quote me on this, but I think it's the oldest prison in London.
Yeah, and the biggest, isn't it? The biggest, and it got the biggest wing. It's got one of the biggest wings.
The biggest wing in Europe is in Wormwood Scrubs. Yeah, we
It
walked
sounds
on
like
that.
it's out of Harry Potter.
It looks like it.
Ella, you were going to say something?
I was going to say about we were talking about kind of the problem, and then we were trying to find the solution. So when you're looking at coaching terms, that's kind of what we were going towards.
Good.
That's all I got.
What have we learned about coaching?
Pardon?
What else have we learned about coaching?
Agenda.
Yeah.
Containing.
Containing an agenda, yeah.
Would it be to the way that this has worked is that I was able to come in and feel like I hadn't missed anything.
Flexibility of it worked for you? Yeah, good.
Using your lived experience, like people have talked about the experience.
So do you think it's helpful when you talk about your lack of lived experience in an area?
Yeah.
Being honest, and it's building trust. You
And
wouldn't
also,
want to talk like say you'd got lived experience if you hadn't got lived experience. So if you talk to somebody without that lived experience, or you come from no lived experience, then pointing that out builds trust.
and I think that if you can, I find with myself, if I share that I'm not knowledgeable about something, I'm asking the person to tell me about that. I get the knowledge around it, but also it builds up that rapport of getting to know somebody, and the trust as well, because you can sit there and listen to what somebody has to say.
I think it shows as well that you're willing to be vulnerable yourself, which helps to build that trust.
And that you're human.
And it's okay not to know everything and to ask.
The role of a coach is to know fuck all. The less you know, the better. And I say that jokingly, but I really mean it. When I work with kids are great coaches. Really young kids, they're just naturally curious and ask questions, and so often it's harder for adults to kind of go down to that place of, well, I don't know what's going on, what we're going to do now.
Kids are not afraid to ask, are they? At all.
Oh. Okay, back to you, Jet.
Yeah. I guess I made that assumption in it that the conversation was wrong if people hadn't experienced it, but they've probably learned something as well on the flip side to that. So that's probably, don't make assumptions, too many assumptions. Don't make any assumptions, really, as a coach.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I know, that's the problem, isn't it? We all, as adults especially, we do that a lot.
Well, let's just think that through. We have to make assumptions and to be judgmental all the time because we have responsibilities. Yeah, it's the way that we deliver those judgments that is important. And we don't want to shame people.
That's easier said than done, innit? Shaming someone because we don't know what their, I guess, tolerance or where they feel more vulnerable. I mean, just before we started this, I remember at our meeting on Tuesday, they gave me a token to say well done on 10 years, and I looked around the room and I felt some people feeling awkward because they're just early into their recovery, and I was like, is it a good thing that that happened? You know, that we're celebrating something like that. So what am I trying to say? Inadvertently, you can actually make people feel shamed by something positive, I guess.
That's visual recovery, though, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah, maybe it's just me thinking like that, but or visualizing what was there.
Yeah, how did you know that they were feeling shame?
See, look, yeah, because I sort of, not, I won't say shame as such. It was like an awkwardness. I think it felt like a bit of an awkwardness. You know,
Did
maybe
you
that
feel
was
like
just,
you were rubbing the nose in it or something?
yeah. Whereas that's never my intention. It's always there to give them that hope. And I guess that's what the intention is, to give others hope. But
Do you
yeah,
know,
so that's just another fine line in it. And again, that's probably my perception of how they feel. So as a coach, you know, that it again, it's quite fine.
Do you think that so
Open
there's
question.
oh sorry how do you think that that made that person feel?
Right.
I think for the majority, I mean, there was, I don't really want to say too much about that particular meeting, but there was one person very early in their recovery, and I've noticed over the weeks, you know, they're very quiet and they don't really say much, and they feeling it. I don't know if they feel. I guess I'm assuming. Yeah, it felt like they're feeling inadequate because there's many people with years of recovery. Though we always try and reiterate that a day is more important than 10 days or 20. It starts with a day,
And
and you work
what
on
have
a
you
day
done?
process.
What have you done to support that person?
Oh, go Clarissa.
What did I do? I said the same thing. You know, when I spoke about my recovery, I'll once this this 10-year thing is done, I'm back at square one day after, and then the day after that I'm back at square one. Not in my life, but in my recovery journey, I'm working on that principle that I have to get through that day, and that day will end at midnight, and the next day starts. So I think, I don't know. I'll find out next week if they feel better for it, but we probably won't even talk about it, to be honest.
How did it make you feel when you'd said that to him or her?
Well, it really wasn't about me. It was really about how they felt. That they probably felt a bit at ease, maybe. I don't know.
So remember on the training we did the model, and you won't know this, Jit, unless you've done the online material. But in the adult learning environment, you've got the ABC, action, behavior, consequence. And then you've got the other quadrant where people learn from experience. And then to the side of that, there's the gap between the teacher and the pupil that's called the ZPD, Zone of Proximal Development. And that's a distance between the teacher and the pupil. And the teacher's job is to come down to the pupil's level and to try and teach people there. Yeah. The trouble is in certain environments, so in school environments, it's often better for the younger person to speak to somebody that's slightly older, and that person speaks to somebody slightly older and slightly older and slightly older and slightly older. So you coming from 10 years to go and speak to a newcomer, oh, don't worry, it's exactly the same for me. Yeah, but tomorrow's just another day. The newcomer's most probably thinking, fucking hell, that guy's a guru. Fuck. Yeah. But and they would most probably feel better speaking to somebody with like 30 days or 90 days or 60 days in a clean time perspective.
Yeah.
So I think it's just important that we are aware of the distance. Yeah. So when I go and speak to a 21-year-old kid and say, fucking hell, when I was young, I know exactly what it's like to fucking, wash coke and fucking shoot brown and all that. They just look at me and think, you daft old cunt, and to be okay with that. I've become that sleazy old man that the young lot look at me, fucking, what is he on about? I want to try and be the cool uncle. No, I'm just being an idiot. Does that make sense? So, and as part of kind of lived experience, we're trying to build rapport with the individual that can interact with a professional like a psychiatrist who has never had any lived experience, has done all the books and the theories and everything, and has a whole lot of academic, institutional, and work experience working with this population. Yep. But the population is like, they're the fucking enemy. You think you're clever. You think you're posh. You think you're better than me. Or you think you're from the south of England. What do you not know? Yeah. So it's just becoming aware of all that sort of stuff as well. So did you say, if you want what I've got and are willing to make the effort to get it, then you two can?
No, I never said that. That's yeah, it's pure AA. That's not me.
So I don't know. I mean, maybe after 10 years, he wants to become a Hindu that works with leather.
Good luck. I'll be rolling my eyes at him. Because I'll be up there with the priest and I'm checking. Yes, yeah, in the mountains somewhere. We just.
Okay, cool. How's it feeling in the container?
Good.
Yeah. Okay. So I personally feel a little bit fatigued just because I've just like Thursdays, it's back to back to back to back. And when I'm tired, my anxiety is this being helpful? So I just want to quickly whip around the room and just capture what each person's kind of learning. Let's start with you, Emma. We'll go Emma, Charlie, Kai.
I'm learning a lot. Like I'm like processing it in my mind now. But yeah, I'm learning a lot that it's not just me that thinks these things I'm getting other people's perceptions and about training and about the do's and don'ts, but at the same time, some of them don'ts you can still do, but in a different way. Does that make sense? It's not an absolute don't. It's just about going around it, reading the room, seeing how it better fits, if that makes sense. But yeah, I'm feeling good about it. Got a lot of insight.
Reading the room, good. Charlie?
I'm learning about recovery in the container and how it comes in all shapes and sizes. I like the agenda that Jit was speaking about Emma going into prison. I found that one fascinating, and how he left. Emma left feeling that some of the prisoners had been feeling, and I think that's equality, man, right when there instead of inequality. That compassion that he felt for the prisoners, I think will going a long way in his jiu-jitsu recovery. So yeah, so it was fascinating.
Rissa? Oh, sorry, I said Kai. I said Kai, didn't I?
You always forget me. I think I've mainly taken away the sort of importance of meeting people where they're at, but also sort of thinking about what barriers people have to treatment, and then also what barriers they have sort of me to them, if that makes sense. So what are my own sort of areas that I need to look into myself at and identify before I go out to, you know, start actually helping people on the way, if that makes sense. So what barriers they have from the outside and sort of what barriers I'm presenting in myself to them.
Right. Emma's coming off the methadone, that's why she's sneezing so much. So we'll now go Ella, Tony, Katie.
Yeah, I'm not feeling. What am I feeling? I'm not feeling, not talking about feelings, am I? Yeah, I've learned a lot. I think I've learned a lot more about stigma. Obviously, I'm working in the role that I'm working on, I know a fair bit about it and how that impacts our clients, but it's good to kind of learn it from different points of view and other people's different perspectives. And also something come up for me, like when everyone was talking about how important it is to kind of, when they were talking about prisons and stuff, how important it is to kind of, if you haven't walked in their shoes, but to kind of get in their shoes, if that makes sense, and kind of be able to empathize with them and understand, like ask questions and be respectful, and not place that kind of stereotype on people, and just remember that everybody is human. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Tony?
I like what Kai was just saying. That's sort of where my head's been going down, like the barriers to people coming into recovery, talking about, I mean, like for our organization in particular, we deal with homeless drop-in centers and Baptist churches and that kind of thing. That's where we're going out and meeting people. But like, yeah, so it's just got me thinking about how we bring in other people where we're missing out. Maybe I should go and do a drop-in at the Ritz or something like that. I don't know. What do you think, Katie? Yeah, but lots, like, yeah, the stigma as well. Like, do I stigmatize people?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a lot going on, isn't there? Yeah.
Katie?
Yeah, it's definitely reminded me to challenge my own perceptions about not only other people but about myself. And if I don't know, then ask. If I don't know something, then ask the question. Because how am I ever going to know how someone else is feeling unless I ask? So that, yeah, it's been really interesting today. Thank you.
Jit?
Yeah, I've got a fair bit out of that about coaching skills and to come down to their level or the intermediate bit before, and and you know, challenging myself in my thinking as well. And it was I think I said it earlier about equity. Yeah, that's an important piece as well. So yeah, it's been interesting today.
Cool. Larissa?
Yeah, I once again, for me, it was the remembering to come down to this service users level, and to, you know, the fact that, you know, I don't have to know everything about the client, and it's best not to. And that way I remain, I don't have that preconception, so that I can then go in really into a session really open and willing to learn, I suppose, from the client as well. So I can learn something from them as well.
Great. So Katie, I just want to say something to you, if I may. Yeah. So when I was down with your team, I want you to know that you're on my mind. Yeah, that I missed you there. Yeah, but that didn't mean that I wasn't thinking.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I was, and I want to know if there's anything that I need to be able to do, or yeah, to continue supporting you. Yeah. So and I don't expect you to tell me.
Thank you.
Other than the fact that I'm kind of aware that you weren't there, but it's really great to see you here.
Thank you.
Yeah? Okay. So as
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's a pleasure, love. Pleasure. So as we go around the room again, just one thing that you've learned from today that you can take back to your role within your organization.
Listening and learning.
And what is your role, Emma?
Be a mentor.
So as a peer mentor, I need to listen and learn more, or to practice listening and learning more to them. Yeah?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Wonderful. We'll go popcorn style.
I'll say equity. It's been brought up a couple of times today, and I think it's important in my role to make the process of people coming to volunteer as easy for each individual as it can be. You know, adjustments made so that it's, you know, they can do what they need to do, because that's what essentially you know gets done for me sometimes. So I need to remember to do that for others.
Okay. And your role is volunteer coordinator. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So as volunteer coordinator, I need to think about equality. Is that what you said? Equity?
No, so equity. So it's a more level playing field.
Okay. Oh, so equity means like equality, like
Equal level.
Yeah, so if you know, it's giving people that need a bit more, that bit more, so that they are on the level playing field. So kind of giving special attention, but not special attention, you know, so that everyone comes from the same level, if you get that.
Okay, so kind of supporting people at where they're at.
Yeah.
Yeah. Without kind of
Yeah.
like, you know, making a big deal out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Great.
Yeah, I think my takeaway is basically the same as that of how can I improve the sort of access of the people I'm working with to get, you know, to get to what they want first, and and basically the steps we need to take to get them there, because it's obviously it's different for everyone. But for example, like with the guy I have who doesn't speak English, that's a huge barrier to getting support. So it's just thinking more about sort of those things, what extra stuff maybe I can do around that, if that makes sense.
And your role is, Kai?
I am a community coach.
Okay. So as a community coach, I need to be more aware that not everyone's first language is English, and that I must kind of look at ways to possibly meet people where they're at in their language.
Yeah, sort of along that, because it took me a bit out of left field today when I got a guy, and then it was, we need to find an interpreter, and I was like, I don't even know how to go about that. Like, I don't even know where to start with finding an interpreter. But it's been that was something I think today that was quite like a good experience to have of, fuck, I didn't even think about that.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? So it's good to have that sort of challenge.
I think what I learned from the guys at Raw, somebody said, well, I can't remember who it was, but they said they use Google Translate. Was it with the Raw guys that did that?
I think I thought about doing that, but I know Google Translate isn't always very good, essentially. So the language the guy speaks it's not a big language. So I think the smaller the language on Google Translate, the sort of shitter the translation is.
Okay.
Mm.
All right. And I'm going to say that wasn't a frap. And the reason I say it wasn't a frap is because it's emerged in the container before. So that's a wisdom where the solution's in the container. But it was a bit of a frap as well.
Go on, I'll have a go. So in my role as peer mentor lead in Raw, I need to be more open-minded in my approach to where I focus my attention. So as I said before about heading into Baptist churches, homeless drop-in centres, I need to expand where I think our peer mentors should be heading.
Brilliant.
I think I've learned to kind of meet my clients' needs and kind of try and go to their level of kind of I mean, I kind of already do that, but it's something that's kind of more prominent in my brain to make sure that I do that.
And your role again?
My role is I'm actually an events planner in Raw. Yeah, but I also in my other role, I have so many. What's the word? Hats. That's the word.
Right.
For me, it's to remain open-minded and willing to learn. And by doing that, I'll be able to meet people at their level.
And your role?
I'm a volunteer for Raw.
A volunteer for Raw. Okay. Okay, because you checked in saying you were a manager for Forward Trust.
I got confused because it had it on my name at the bottom of the screen and I forgot where I was and I'm doing this and that. And I've got as many hats as, yeah, Ella, I forgot what I was. I'm just a mum. I'm just a plain old mum trying to make a living.
Okay. Okay, Jit, I'll give you a clue. I think it's you next. I think you're the last one.
Am I? Okay. As a director for Free and Recovery, I think equity is an important part of what my organization should be doing. I say my organization, it's only me anyway. But yeah, especially cultural and racial equity, I think that's massive. And cultural competency within other organizations is key.
Oh. All right. What I've learned is my anxiety is helpful in trying to keep this beneficial to everyone. Yeah, I think I'm doing a good job in spite of it. So I check out with Joy and I'm going to tag Emma.
I check out with gratitude for the group.
Tagging. We got a minute. Let's
Oh.
go.
J-
Oh, I check out with hunger. I'm starving, man. I pass it to Charlie.
I check out tired, fatigued, but I'm glad that I was in this in my room, listening to all yous, and I tag Clarissa.
I check out feeling a little bit discombobulated, backwards and forwards, and I tag Katie in.
Thank you. I'm feeling accepted, and I tag Tony.
I'm feeling inspired,
Ooh.
and I'm tagging Kai.
I'm feeling good. I think it was like quite a productive session. I enjoyed it, and I'll tag Emma. Ella, even fuck. Ha! Never mind.
That's okay, it gets confusing. Thank you for choosing me. I'm feeling tired. Tired, yeah.
Tag Dave.
Oh, David.
No, I think I checked out with
Oh, it's
choices
done.
in spite of my fear. So
yeah,
there we
sorry.
go. 4 o'clock. We finished on time. See you all next week. Reach out on your WhatsApp groups if you need to get me, and lots of love.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye. Bye.